Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row. Joining me this week, we have John in South Jersey, Bougie, Mongrovian Mike, and Ari Davis. What's up, people?
What's going on, fellas?
What's up?
I can put my headphones on. I can hear better.
Hey, maybe,
Well,
that might help.
Yeah. It's definitely been an eventful week. We all had a busy trip out to Texas last week, out to Mission Pro Wrestling Silver Bells 2. See the poster there. So I think we're just going to talk a little bit about some of our adventures out there, and then talk a little bit about the pay-per-view, and then there's a lot going on in the world of wrestling this week that we really want to talk about. So, real quick.
Really?
There's a few things.
One or two. Well, a couple off the top of the head.
Yeah. So, all right, how was your trip out to Mission Pro overall?
Wasn't bad trip. Layover at the airport for 6 hours sucked, but other than that, it was a good trip.
Nice, Mike.
We had the time of my life. It was first time visiting Texas. First time, formally meeting a Thunder Rosa, and first time meeting Brian and all the Mission Pro. Definitely just meeting all the Mission Pro people from the ring crew, the all the way up to just everybody. They couldn't be more gracious to us, and just everybody. The fans were great. Our little friend Noah that we met sitting in the front row with us, scissoring with us all night, and face the wrestling doctor, the wife, lovely person, awesome.
He
lady.
didn't want to get sung to by all those women, but he would scissor you all night long.
That's it. He didn't want the attention, but then he wanted the attention. But great kid. Happy birthday to Noah. And it was just great, man. I saw some of my favorite wrestlers and hung out with some of my best friends in the world that I love, and it was just a great time. And some people were missed, especially my boy John.
And made some new favorite wrestlers.
Yep.
Yeah,
we did miss you, John. We missed all the people in our group and all people in the nation who couldn't be there. As each trip goes, I think we're growing in size, and hopefully, in the coming months and years, we'll be able to get the whole group there at one point. But yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to Brian and Thunder and of course Emily and Jeremiah and JP and just everybody that works so hard to put those shows together. Some of us had the opportunity to go over on Friday and do ring crew and setup and all that stuff. And, for anybody who's ever seen an independent show put together, it's a tremendous amount of work to make that look like it does on TV. Everything from an empty room to setting up the ring and the chairs.
A lot of moving pieces.
A lot. And it all fits into a nice little trailer. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's always pretty cool to see that stuff come together and then come back the next day and see it come to life, to see the show come to life and then to see the reaction of the people on social media, to see them reacting to the show as we're watching live. And we're going to talk a little bit about the show in a minute. But I also wanted to mention, as you were talking about some of the people that we met, I want to give a shout out to MJF Scarf. For those of you who haven't met him, he's a very cool dude. You won't see his face on social media a whole bunch, but in person, he's a really nice guy. There was so many people. I think there was, 300, had to be over 300 people in the room. It was packed to the point where both wings were full. All the VIPs sold out, weeks and weeks ago. So it was and the energy in the crowd and energy in the room was really good. I felt like the crowd was they were in tune with the action that we were seeing. They were booing at the right times and cheering at the right times, and there was some really funny chants. It was awesome.
Yeah. That came across real good on the broadcast as well, because of course I was not in Texas, sadly. But definitely. Hopefully, Mrs. Front Row. Hopefully, but as the one that was watching the pay-per-view on Title Match Network, shout out to Title Match Network for putting Mission Pro on, and those of us who couldn't see it live getting to to watch it. But yeah, you could definitely tell the crowd was into the whole show, into every match, and it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
And how about this broadcast team too? Front row.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike and who was the on commentary with Mike? I'm blanking on her name.
Gigi.
Thank you, Gigi. Gigi Ray.
Yes.
Was awesome.
Gigi,
I went back and rewatched the broadcast, the pay-per-view when we got home. And they did such a good job telling those stories and just lending that piece of the whole thing. So yeah, it was really good. The whole experience was a lot of fun. Merchandise was crazy. People were doing meet and greets all over.
I believe that's Gigi's first time. I believe that
commentary.
That's Gigi's first time on commentary as well.
Cool. I also want to give a shout out to all of our peeps all over the place. I see Trend in the chat. What's up, Trenda? Trend is one of the 14 or 15 of us. Actually, I think with Guido's family, we had like almost 20 people. And then today we have a whole group of our team out in Philly. We got Seth and Deb and Tony and Chris and Steve. And am I missing somebody? I think that's everybody.
Yeah, I think that's all of them.
Looks like they're having a great time.
Yes.
They had some dinner with Bully Ray or lunch with Bully Ray, and
I believe that's
some
everybody.
folks there, and I think they're at the big show tonight. So
yeah, they should be just about getting in the doors. They should be just about getting in the doors for the matches tonight. So,
yeah, I see Deb in the chat. There she is. So yeah, it was. It's really cool.
I made my special breakaway table for
Cardona.
Yes, that the paper champ will be the true death match god, Bully Ray will decimate him, make him bloody, and he will destroy. Shout out to Deb too, front row. She was making the boo boo face last. Boo boo face because now they're at the event and hanging out and doing all the fun stuff that everyone in the nation does, man. Because
we get to make the
Busted
boo-boo
Open
face.
Nation. The Busted Open Nation is ubiquitous.
Someone's got to hold down the fort. This week it's us.
Yeah.
There we go. So I'm not going to run down the whole card, but I did want to touch on a couple of really fun moments from the pay-per-view. We had a chance to interview Jade a couple months ago, or it's about a month and a half ago, and she was there, and just, man, she was a little nervous going into the match, but she was just tremendous. I was excited to see her wrestle in person. She's only like, I think 17 or so, and been training a few years. But all the moments, especially what we saw in that semi-main event with JP and Simon. Simon, by the way, is awesome. If you've ever had a chance to meet Simon Miller, he is the coolest dude. We got to spend a bunch of time with him over the weekend, and just a nice guy. And then to see what happened with JP and that dastardly ref turn on Simon and do what he did with the shovel and all that. And of course, then we had a showdown between Thunder Rosa and JP Harlow. What did you guys think of this moment in the room? And then, John, I want to ask you how it came across on TV, what you saw in the moment. Mike?
Well, in the room, we were like, okay, so we knew LaGreca was a no-show. We weren't going to have him. So Brian kept it a secret, we were looking for a swerve. We didn't know. You watching this ref and you're saying, oh, he's counting slow. All right, so he's a new ref, whatever. But then little by little, you're saying, what the hell's going on? So without the commentary, we're putting it together, but not completely. That's why you definitely need the commentary. But at the live show, it really came together. And then when it happened at the end, that swerve at the end was just great. And what a little scumbag. And I started the "this ref sucks" chant.
You did.
Yeah. He was just an awful person. He was a nice guy before and after, but in that ring, what a shitty human being.
Oh yeah,
so Simon Miller. That's my metal brother too, man. What a metalhead. all the classic metal that I love. What a great guy. No Leaf Clover, Simon.
All right.
Yeah, I thought it was. I didn't see the swerve coming. There was kind of inklings that something was going to happen with, how like said how slow the count was and everything. But then he straight pulled a Nick Patrick on us.
Nick Patrick,
So,
yes.
and it surprised everybody.
So, John, when they were telling the story on commentary, were there any hints that this was coming, or was it all down the middle?
Yeah, no, they called it down the middle and sold it real well when the actual turn happened and everything. I just knowing Brian and speaking with him in the past about him with how he thinks matches and psychology, I honestly thought they were going to do something with JP's partner Joey, make him have him do some sort of shenanigans, which we have seen in the past. But this was totally, it popped all of us in the Zoom room. I think it popped everybody at home because no one saw it coming. And yes, that referee, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare I, sir?
He's a terrible human.
There's
no getting around it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel sorry for whoever's married to him.
Yeah, I know. Whoever that is, it sounds like a bad idea.
And ironically, none of us feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Kayfabe, brother.
No, commentary did a great job. They, they sold the surprise and everything, and up until the point of the turn, they were just calling the match. And Gigi once or twice made a comment about the slow counts and stuff from the ref, but didn't, other than, wow, that, she kind of did it as a throwaway comment, like, wow, that ref's kind of slow on the count, but never once gave it away or anything. So it was,
he brought us back by kicking Hader back in the back.
Right.
He swerved us twice. So
So ultimately, shout out to Brian for putting that together, and to the guys pulling it all off. It was great to see on pay-per-view. And actually, I went back and rewatched it just to see if I could pick up anything. And throughout that whole match, not one of them gave any kind of a tell or inclination until it happened. So good job for them, man. It was a great way to finish up that match.
And one of the things too is he did have a slow.
Whose side is he on?
He did have a slow count, but it was a consistent slow count. It was the same speed throughout the whole match. So you just kind of assume that's just his style. But I did want to talk a little bit about that post match. For JP to come and call out Thunder Rosa and in her own promotion, and to do that on a pay-per-view, and even Mrs. Front Row says he called her Toots. And it's a tough thing in today's day and age. You have some badass women in there, having some incredible matches. You have to be very careful if you're JP. You want to make a statement without getting your ass beat in the moment. And luckily for him, Thunder's currently injured and can't really do isn't really cleared to do a whole lot. So who knows where that's going to lead. But I know that there's
she at the very least could slap the taste out of his mouth.
And she did. She certainly did.
Yes.
I wouldn't yell at her.
She did.
Yeah. I wouldn't yell at her, but that's just me. I have a sense of self-preservation than JP Harlow.
For as smart as JP thinks he is, he's really kind of dumb. We have seen history. Dave Garca made a point to call Thunder Rosa honey often. And we all know how that turned out.
Yeah.
So,
Spear to a pile of cans.
Right.
Yes.
Little tape study next time, JP. Might not,
It turns into a job.
That can right there.
Yeah, and now so now we're looking at a pay-per-view coming up in February. Kickstart My Heart, and I think it's February 11th, I believe. I don't know what's going to happen
February
next. I
11th.
don't know where this store is going,
Yep.
and it's going to be interesting for me for all of us to see, what JP is going to what statements he's going to try to make, and who's going to step up.
Yeah.
And then of course we had the two other matches that I found that I really, really enjoyed was the Candy Cane Lane street fight. That was just chaos. The whole thing was a mess. It was hard hitting, and just real quick, I want to mention that Tony Justice and I were on a mission on Wednesday night. So if you want to hear a full match by match breakdown, you can go watch that episode from this week with Brian and Emily. But that street fight was crazy. I think some of us either got hit or almost got hit, and it was just incredible.
They wound up in the front row.
They were right behind us at one point.
Yeah.
But
that was amazing. It was we missed the door match.
The door spot.
We missed the door. We missed the door part of the match.
The door spot.
They're on the other side of the ring. Yeah, but while we watching it, that was.
Yeah, but I got a really good video of it and shared it with everybody.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and of course our main event was Genocide versus Janai Kai. Genocide retaining the Mission Pro World Championship, and those two beat the hell out of each other. One of the things that
Demon versus the Bionic Beast.
we expected Janai to bring her kicks, but Genocide's posted a bunch of videos of her training really hard over the last year or two, doing Muay Thai or some kind of kickboxing, and she's no joke. She is incredibly strong. That was a good one. Here we go. Mrs. Front Row says people who use toots deserve a throat punch. That's probably true.
Accurate.
I don't think I've ever used that word outside of this current broadcast.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun over the weekend. We did a lot of partying. We had some barbecue. We had some Mexican food.
Some more barbecue.
More barbecue. Yeah. Some of us got stuck.
Whataburger?
Nope. I didn't have a Whataburger. You guys had it. We got in late.
Went to Buc-ee's?
I have to say, some of you got your Buc-ee's cherry busted.
Mm-hmm.
I can get Whataburger anytime.
I got my Mission Pro over everything.
No,
Mission Pro Wrestling over.
There you go.
They sold so much merchandise. By the time I got up to the table during the intermission, like half of the stuff was gone. So it was definitely merch madness there that day.
That's a good.
Yeah, shout out to Hybrid Wrestling too. They got some cool people too. Jesse James, Devin Carter, they were good, very good, nice.
Dude, Devin Carter is a star in the making.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
But overall, a really fun weekend.
Casey Black Rose.
Yeah, Casey is really good too. They have a bunch of people on the come up, and one of the things I did want to mention was how incredibly nice and respectful the students were. When we were doing ring crew, we're just there volunteering and helping, but everybody came up to introduce themselves and just super respectful and just a good group of people.
Yeah,
it was just a lot of fun.
All the way to the top too, because I had Brian wash my back.
Hey,
yeah, nothing weird, just respect.
Okay,
I got you. Okay,
I love you, Brian. Brian, you know what? Really, super props to Brian, really, because you think, oh, if I have the money, it's not just I have money and I'm gonna run a promotion. It's a lot of stuff, and this is just a small independent show. Connecting all the dots and getting a storyline going and figuring out who to get there, and then this person might not make it there because up until the last second, if Jade, we thought Jade might not have made it, and that would have been the same flight that LaGreca was on. So there's a lot of things, and kudos to Brian. It's a daunting task, and he's up for it.
Yeah, I mean the whole crew works so hard, and to your point, like Brian, to Brian's credit, man, we got to see behind the scenes, how the show runs and how all of the moving pieces, as I already said, there's so many different components that have to happen live in the moment. Everything has to go right for it to look good on TV. It doesn't always. This weekend, it did. Like everything was awesome. So, and also one last shout out to Emily and her husband who worked really hard, and they had to get up at like 4 a.m. and then fly to California to do New Japan. They work very hard as well, and it just, a big part of what makes that place run. So, okay, let's talk about some other stuff out in the world of wrestling. I'm going to start with a complaint, and this has been a running complaint of mine for months. The AEW women's division is loaded with talent, and they don't get any friggin' time. This week on Dynamite, once again, every week at 9:23.
Set your watch by it.
Set your clock to it, and 9:23 the match starts. It was 9 minutes long, and 3 minutes of it was in picture-in-picture, and the 9 minutes included the post-match nonsense. Then you go to Rampage. Rampage is it's a 5-minute match. 3 minutes of it are in picture-in-picture. You gave your entire women's division 14 minutes, including entrances and ring time, on 3 hours worth of TV. And yet they keep signing people.
Right.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And then I heard caller on Busted Open say
and they're not using them. Soraya's sitting in the back.
Yeah, you're paying Saraya whatever. I imagine she's not. I imagine she's a fairly high price tag signee, and you're not doing anything with her.
You had one match and a couple backstages with her so far. I guess that's earning your money, but I don't. You're right. It is such a.
I'm going to catering.
Yeah.
Right.
That's about to be. Because catering must be crowded. That must be the biggest room backstage. Because if you look at, not even just the women's roster, just the AEW roster overall, there's a lot of people sitting in catering. And I hate beating my dead horse on this, but it goes back to, you have a company that's run by a fan with unlimited funds. It's not run by a wrestling promoter or a booker, and hence why you have women's matches that last 7 minutes that don't have anything. You want to tell me the most meaningful storyline in the women's AEW division right now is Jade Cargill and this inflated undefeated streak that she's on?
Well, no, they also focused on the world champion Britt Baker. Oh wait, I'm sorry, she's not actually the champion.
Yeah, no, her sidekick is. Which to me, I for the life of me, I cannot understand that. And
which it's funny.
No, go ahead, Ari. Go ahead.
The sidekick coming out as, I was just going to say, the sidekick's coming out as the champion, and she's being center stage.
Yeah,
being center stage. Well, the champion's the sidekick.
To me, it just says that whoever holds the belt and whoever is not as important as Britt Baker.
Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing, because it was a match that Britt had. So why is she having a match? What every week she's got a promo, and she's not, even if she doesn't have a match, she's the promo. And why? But the other thing is I feel TK does a lot of the stuff that they all slag Vincent K. McMahon about over the years. And he's doing the same thing because there's a lot of people stuck in catering. Isn't that one of their main effing gripes over the past few years with all the talent that Vince had when they started AEW? Whatever. But I just love to see wrestling, but just respect the women. I mean, it's ridiculous. Front row, am I right or wrong? Did Monday Night Raw start with the women's match?
It started with a match that was 20 minutes long, and I believe SmackDown similarly had like a 15 or 20-minute killer women's match, and both shows had multiple women's matches.
And that's not included in NXT, and that's not including all of the backstage or all of the everything. I mean, it's
Mike, to your point, Raw this week and last week had almost 50-50 men and women booking on the show. That's for a 3-hour show. So you had roughly an hour and 15 to an hour and a half of each Monday Night Raw 2 weeks in a row was women's matches or segments. And they were all storylines that people give a shit about.
Well, this is the problem. You could give me Jericho putting over a great young talent like Andretti, and you could give me an hour-long Iron Man match with Daniel and with Daniel Bryan Danielson and
Daniel Bryanson
and Omega. Yeah, Daniel Bryanson, and it's still not going to win my pick of the week, no matter what. No matter what, it's never going to win my show of the week until they start respecting the women and start having matches. And start having. How about a couple of weeks where we don't even see that Brit's mug? How about that? We don't hear from her. We don't see her. Let Jamie Hayter shine a little bit. And
she's never going to be.
Maybe Dynamite can be my winner of the week.
Yeah,
then
Mike's got a point.
Never gonna be.
John, can you because we were gone last weekend, so I missed a bunch of content.
Right.
Can you speak a little bit about the Ring of Honor Women's Championship match from last weekend?
Well, the match itself was fantastic just because of the people involved. And you're talking about the then Ring of Honor Women's Champion, Mercedes Martinez, which, again, talking about in catering, this is, your promotion that you bought and your women's champion that you have not seen anywhere near TV up until about a week previously of the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And, of course, Athena. So the match itself was exactly what you would expect from those two.
A banger.
A banger. Very physical, very snug, very hard hitting. Absolutely.
Why is she hitting so hard? What does she think? She's one of the guys?
Let her, because Mercedes Martinez thinks the exact same way, and those two ladies brought it big. And Athena winning, becoming the women's Ring of Honor champion. I thought they could have used a little more time, but again, call it Ring of Honor, but it's still at this point an AEW product, so it was very match heavy regardless. And everybody, I think they overall did a good job of trying to give everybody equal amount of time. I think they could have used another 5 minutes, but overall it was an excellent match. It was one of my top 3 of the card. So I enjoyed it, and watching those two work was fantastic.
So you've got a match like that on Ring of Honor pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. Why are we not seeing that on AEW TV when you've got Hikaru Shida and Riho and Mercedes Martinez and Thunder returning at some point and Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter, Statlander returning soon? You've got 10 main event level talents. A couple are injured, but you've got plenty of people to tell stories. So why do they keep using the same 2 people?
Right. And here's the thing. Here's my other point, and we were discussing this last night in Zoom. You look at the past 5 years at WWE, you have had multiple women's main event, pay-per-view main event matches.
WrestleMania.
Main event of WrestleMania. Numerous main events on SmackDown and Raw. You're never going to see women main event in AEW show or pay-per-view. I don't think that they, for whatever reason, there is such a large disconnect between the talent and the backstage and booking and everything else. I don't in 5 years I don't see women main eventing an AEW pay-per-view just because they barely get 7 minutes. How are you going to build and I understand it's a new company, growing pains, this and that, but you know what? We're past the honeymoon period on this. Now have to start.
Hey, John, I just got a question. I think, do you see that it's the AEW fans that don't really go to the women or because they seem to like that. They seem to do like the trios and all those car crash matches.
Well,
they really like the dangling keys.
Well, the AEW, they like the shiny object. They like the flip floor and film and all that, and that's fine. And yes, most of that stuff for to steal Front Row's analogy, it's fast food. It's okay in the moment, but you wind up with a bellyache later, and you wonder why you did that. But
I'm hungry now.
It is a different fan. But the whole thing is I don't think the fans react to the women because you never see them. You don't see them in the ring. You don't see them in promos or backstage vignettes or anything. So they don't know how to react to them. The women are as equally as talented. The top 10 women on the AEW roster are as equally as talented and able as the top 10 men. I have no doubt about that at all. But we never see them. There's no time given to invest in a story. You look at even when Thunder was on the chase for the title, you hear the pops from the crowd because Thunder was out there. She was, in the ring. She was doing great promos and all that, and fans were connecting. Now you have, it seems like the only two things the fans have connect with is Britt Baker and Jay Cargill. And
so
everybody else is secondary.
John, so here's the thing, right? It's not about gender. It's about story.
Right.
When specific to AEW, when Thunder was on the chase for the title and they told that wonderful story and they had the lights out match, the St. Patrick's Day match, and we saw those two matches a year apart. They told a year-long story of Thunder chasing Britt for that title, and we were there in the room, and they main evented that episode of Dynamite, and the place came unglued. Yes, it was San Antonio, but I think you would have gotten that reaction in pretty much any AEW arena because of the story they told. It's not about gender. It's about story. And over on the WWE side, they're telling stories on both the women's and the men's rosters that people want to tune in for. They care.
Right.
Some of the best wrestlers in the history of the business. I'm sorry, some of the biggest stars in the history of business were not necessarily your best technical wrestlers, but they were characters and stories that you tuned in for every week. And the other thing I'll say is AEW still charges a premium for their pay-per-views. They still expect people to pay, chunk down $40 or $50 or whatever it is to watch a show, but they're not giving us stories that make people want to do that. Why am I going to watch this when I can watch it in clips on YouTube and get the same match breakdown because the story isn't any different? They're not making me care. When All Out happened, the most interesting thing that happened was on the YouTube post-media scrum, which really sucked because there was a lot of good stuff, a lot of good wrestling that had happened.
And it's a shame they told good stuff. They have told good stories though in the past. The Jericho MJF story, the Dustin Cody story, just so many good stories.
The Thunder Britt story.
Yeah,
the Thunder Britt story was great.
MJF story.
But look at what they were doing with with Serena Deeb. They were starting to tell a story about Serena Deeb being the professor, being that heel, and then they just abandoned it. It was a good story. People were like, "Oh, we want to know where this is going." It drives me crazy.
The answer is nowhere.
Yeah. All right, so we've ranted enough, but I hope they start to figure out how to tell better stories and build better characters, because if they don't start building other people besides the top two people on the promotion, then the top two people are not necessarily the champion. Because Jamie never talks on the mic and she just carries a belt around. As far as I'm concerned, there's no point in having her be the champion. And it doesn't matter who's holding that title, because at some point Thunder's going to come back, kick their ass and take that title back.
Exactly.
Just one last 5-second thing. You could take the microphone out of MJF's hand instead of having him in the ring for 20 minutes. Take 5 minutes away and give that mic to Thunder in an open ring, in a ring with in attendance, and let her see what she could do. Because my God, we've seen her on it. We've heard her on an open mic.
Right.
We know.
Yeah, and put your finger on the censor button.
Yeah.
Oh, what'd she call JP? What'd she say?
Yeah.
she says a talented little fucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did say that on Busted Open.
Yeah.
Yes. But so I'm gonna go back to the Raw and SmackDown stuff. We're starting to see some really interesting things in the women's division of both shows. We're seeing Shayna and Ronda teaming up, beating people up backstage. They have a history together that goes back, a couple decades, like a decade and a half, way before they were wrestling. Back in their days in MMA, they were friends, and there's this great story where if Ronda drops the title, or if somebody comes back and takes that title, Charlotte, then now you're off to the races with a tag team that can run riot through that division. And I know, John, as an MMA fan, you'd probably be here for all that.
Yeah.
Oh, I am definitely here for all that. I not that I've made it too publicly, but I've been waiting for this. I ultimately wanted to see, even going back when Ronda first came in, I wanted to see 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen. And and I'm like, what, this story writes itself, just book it. Unfortunately, we're not going to see that, but the teaming up of Ronda and Shayna, to me, is almost a no-brainer. Yeah. I mean, you could put them against each other, but that doesn't seem as much fun or as entertaining. So, yes, put them together as this badass tag team that just runs roughshod over the entire division. Don't even necessarily, I'm sure, give them a title run at some point with the women's tag team belts. Bring some credibility to those titles, because that's come in, while established, not exactly real established, but and even if they don't have titles, you can just still have them randomly pop up against whoever, just come in, break somebody's elbow, whatever, put them to sleep, make them tap out, and have
female APA.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that works very well. And
minus the smoking and drinking, because they seem pretty
you know what?
screwed.
Why not? Let them smoke cigars and drink beer and play poker in the back.
I think Shayna
Why
smokes
not?
cigars.
She does. Let her. But the other thing I do like with this, not necessarily that it's those two teamed up, we're starting to see, besides main storylines, and this is both on the female and the male side, you have main storylines, title storylines based and everything. We're starting to see the return and the reemergence of the secondary stories, the other, the side story,
Non-title.
Yeah, non-title, but still, letting people get time in the ring, letting them tell stories in the ring, letting them tell stories backstage. When you go back to the Monday Night War, that was what kept you on Raw, or even WCW for the 3 hours. It wasn't Raw had the same simple formula, but it worked. You would start off with something that was the main thread throughout the night that usually ended up in the main event later. But in between all that, you had other side stories and feuds and different things going on, and who was making this promo backstage about this person, that kept you engaged the whole 3 hours.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of stuff going on. There's 2 stories as you're talking. I'm thinking there's 2 big secondary stories going on right now, even just within the women's division, aside from what we've already spoken about. One of them is this Alexa Bliss story that they're telling, where you're seeing the Bray Wyatt Moth logo flash up on the screen, and mid-match she's having a match just as normal Alexa Bliss, and boom, she starts to do a Sister Abigail, or she's even just talking to people, and she sort of transforms. The other story that I'm really interested in, RA, I want to get your thoughts on this. We're seeing the slow progression of Asuka possibly towards Kana, through the evil Kana that she was in Japan. She's been posting a lot of pictures, and you guys know I've been asking for this for years at this point. Bully Ray even read my tweet on the air like a month ago, talking about how much we'd like to see this come to fruition. Well, this week, Asuka comes to the ring, no face paint. She's in her regular gear, but she's real serious. No smiling, no dancing. And then she has a match with Rhea Ripley, right? And loses. And then she posts a video the next day. She's traveling to Japan, and she says, I need to go get something I left behind. And she's been posting daily. She's been posting these little breadcrumbs video evidence of like what this story is going to be told. So, Ari, I wanted to get your opinion. Do you think that we're going to actually see this version of Asuka or just a brand new version?
It's leaning towards that we'll see that version of Asuka, but they can't. I mean, they won't call her Kana because that's obviously her real name. But it wouldn't necessarily be Asuka either, so they would have to probably do something. So I mean, it just I don't know. I don't know what they would do with it, but I'd like to see it anyway. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
for personally,
the clown
personally, I
Kana
think
was a very
I think personally for me the way
she's a
that I
very
would
intense
go,
character.
very intense, and she was she was in the ring with Minoru Suzuki, she was in the ring with Kairi Sane and all these other people that if you go back and just go to YouTube, Kana versus, and then pick a person. Anything from her time in Japan. And remember, Asuka's like in her early 40s. She's been around like 20 years. She's been wrestling a long time.
I want to see her when they're in Japan. Maybe do a vignette with someone like a Suzuki or a Muda, a Great Muda. Maybe possibly that would be heaven if it was the Great Muda. And just come up to her and just in Japanese, even like we don't even have to know, and just say, "You've lost your way. Let me show you the way. Let me help you find the way back," or something to that effect. To just bring the evil Kana or whatever they want to call her back. And
well, I think it's possible because one of the things that we're seeing now is we're seeing WWE contracted talents like Machine Gun Carl Anderson is going to be defending his New Japan Never Openweight title at Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th. This is the first time we're going to see an AEW contracted talent and a WWE contracted talent on a pay-per-view together in New Japan for Wrestle Kingdom. So why couldn't they extend that partnership to having Asuka film stuff with some of the Japanese stars from New Japan while she's there? I'm here for all of it.
Have Suzuki take it to a dungeon or something, something to the equivalent of the Heart Dungeon, whatever it is. Bring her back to his dojo or something, whatever, something like that. And
give me something
I would
like.
But if you do something like you have a video of Asuka sitting in a restaurant eating, and then they just pan out and Suzuki's at the table, and then they just all you need is 20 seconds.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Hey, Neil Ezra, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. for that shit.
Okay, so there was one other thing I do want to talk about the Bloodline, because every week they keep doing stuff that we have to talk about. But I have to give a shout out to Chris Jericho. That guy took Action Andretti, like Mario Andretti, not Andrade, which I keep getting his name confused.
That's Axion Andrade.
Axion Andretti. He took this guy who I know he's been on the independent scene and all that, but he's a relative unknown to the global audience. And they had a killer match. He put the guy over to the moon, and he beat Chris Jericho and won a title. I was critical of stories in AEW, but this was a moment that I thought was really friggin' cool. And you watch Jericho sell for this kid, and
even backstage, he's fit backstage, throwing shit around.
Yes, I made the comment when this was going on that we're seeing the unraveling of Chris Jericho and JAS because he lost to this, basically this jobber. I mean, they were chanting "Let's go jobber" in the beginning of the match, but it shows you that, and I think more so what it is Chris Jericho has been so good for so long and so on top of not only his game but the game of professional wrestling. It's moments like this that I don't think there's right now maybe 5 other guys that could have pulled that off with a relative unknown newcomer as well and got it over as big as Jericho did. And that's all pure 100% Chris Jericho. I will. I'm familiar with Action Andretti. He's a staple up here in the Northeast. I've seen him wrestle probably about 24 times at this point. He's credible. He's legit. He's very good in the ring. But like you said, this was supposed to be. This was billed and built as a squash match. Jericho wanted to get the taste out of his mouth, losing to Claudio and losing the Ring of Honor title. And okay, we just go out and have a squash match. And it started off just that way. But the beauty of it is Jericho registered, Jericho sold, Jericho let this kid get offense. And equally to Action Andretti's point, he realized what kind of spot he was in and everything else. And he stepped up. He leveled up and worked up to what Jericho was offering him. And they made a fantastic match. And within the span of that match, you didn't know anything about Action Andretti.
Nope.
When he was out till the end, that you were like, wow, I want to know who this guy is. And it turns out he's now all elite and one of the newest contracted members of the AEW roster. And as good as Andretti was and is, that was all Chris Jericho. That was Jericho start to finish. Follow my lead, kid. We're going to make you a star. And
Well,
that's
John,
exactly what they did.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just a quick point, front row. The thing is that who hasn't Jericho touched in the ring that he hasn't put over like this? I mean, the guy is a
put two
master at it.
factions alone in AEW over.
He's one of the most fucking unselfish fucking wrestlers out there ever. He puts everyone over. The whole JAS. Before that,
the inner circle.
Everybody said, and just finding this talent, LAX and
He put Fandango over in his first match.
He's got fucking Jake Hager's over with a fucking hat.
But like I said, it's Jericho is to me is one of these guys at this point. The track record speaks for itself. The longevity, what he's done in not only WWE and even prior to that in ECW Independence, what he did in New Japan, what he's been doing in AEW. But like I said, man, there's maybe 5 guys I could mention that could do that. Take anybody and make them a star. And it's so in the world of AEW that is all flip flop and flarn and car crash and everything else, just to see someone work with another person and do all the right things and tell an incredible story in the confines of a match, man, that is a talent, that is an art, that is a skill that sadly, especially on the AEW roster, I don't think there's many guys with anybody else in that ring. It wouldn't have worked.
There's 2 women at top that could be doing that with some of the other women talent, but
sure.
I won't say anything.
But that, like I said, and that that was all purely Jericho, and the selflessness to give up, to let the kid go over, to let the kid, he very easily could have just made it a squash match, and that would have been it.
And John, you said something interesting, because we're talking about a guy who doesn't have to lose very often, and he lost to a relative unknown. Mm-hmm. Now, if he goes out there every week and just loses to quote unquote nobodies, it sort of detracts from his credibility. But here, in this instance, they're telling a story of him unraveling after losing the Ring of Honor title. So not only does he lose and make good a guy who was on the come up, but at the same time, they put a piece of the puzzle together for his larger story. So he figured out a way, or they figured out a way to make it work for everybody involved, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that there is a little bit of storytelling there, and I don't know what's next for Chris Jericho.
Brian Danielson is another one that does that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's another one that does that too. To a little bit more subtle, maybe, but but Jericho is like,
yeah.
You could count like at least 10 people in the past 3 years. At least 10. Unreal.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so our main event tonight is the main event on pretty much everybody's show lately, and it's this Bloodline story. And we talk about it every week because they keep doing interesting things. This week, they had Sami Zayn doing some crazy shit backstage. He had a man bun. His beard was all trimmed. He had almost like the Roman Reigns-esque tight beard.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the jacket. He had the suit jacket and everything. He was debuted a whole new look, but he was still dancing, still being crazy Sammy. They're in the ring, and Roman goes and he hugs Jimmy. He hugs Jay.
He was feeling very oozy.
He was feeling very used, and then he looks at Sammy and hugs Sammy, and everybody's congratulating Sammy because he got a hug from Roman. That's how subtle this story is that they're telling right now. But that's not the interesting part about what we saw. What we saw was Kevin Owens is being pitted against Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns on December 30th. And who does he find for a tag partner? They close the show with John Cena. John Cena comes up on the Titantron, cuts this great promo.
I didn't see it.
Awesome promo. And so now you're looking at Sami Zayn, who was basically a sidekick at the beginning of this whole storyline, has become an integral part to not only the story but all the matches. And now he's being teamed with Roman against one of the biggest stars of the last 25 years. It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
My question for you guys is, who wins this match? All right.
I think it's still going to be the Bloodline coming out, but it could continue the questioning of Sammy and the potential rift between Sammy and the Bloodline and the angle that will be forthcoming with them.
Okay, so Mike, I got to ask you, are they playing Sammy?
You know what? It kind of felt a little like I brought up with The Godfather, like the day Michael Corleone gets made, he takes care of family business, whacks everybody, and then they're in that room. And I said Sammy's going to be on the outside and see that the Roman's going to have the door. You're going to see the wise man slowly close the door over on him, like they did to Kate at the end of Smackdown 2. But no, it's going to be. This was looking more like Joe Pesci getting ready to be made. His mama giving him a kiss, making sure his tie's straight. He's making every hair is perfect. He's the guys, and it didn't happen though. So nobody
in the back of the head.
They take him in the room and whack him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so
John, Jay didn't have to make the call. Jay didn't have to make the call.
Yeah.
So John, if there's a breakup here, did they save it for WrestleMania, post WrestleMania? Did they do it next week? How long does Sammy have?
My fan feeling is I hope it's as long as possible. And the here's the thing is that we have seen so many layers of the Bloodline story and this really evolution of Sammy from the wacky wild haired sidekick guy to he's now almost basically Sammy Uso.
And did they go? Sorry, John. Did they go almost a year with Heyman, thinking Heyman was in, out?
Right.
Is he
they teased that.
Is he
right.
The advisor? So they dangled that and for that character.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, because let's just for a second, again, if we're going to give Jericho flowers for what he did in AEW, and not that he really needs them, he probably has several rooms full of them. Let's give Paul Heyman some flowers for his, and everybody says, oh, well, it's great. It's one man behind this whole thing, and that's Paul Heyman. It's been that way from the beginning and continues to be. And it shows the absolute brilliance and the touch that Paul Heyman has to, when given opportunity and everything, to create this story that is, you're right, we're almost a year, I believe, maybe a little longer into this Bloodline story that has zero room or zero looks of slowing down or coming
Yeah.
to an end anytime soon.
People think it's going to culminate at WrestleMania, and I think it's got legs that go far beyond WrestleMania.
There's still they can run this out now. Now back to Front Row's original question, it depends to me.
So
it
twice
depends
in a
on
lifetime again.
Well, to me, it depends on. I don't want to overshadow what's going on currently, but we're all still looking down the road at the potential of Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. And I think that's going to have a lot to do with if and when they either pull the trigger figuratively on Sammy, because Sammy put the seed of doubt in them last night. My friend Kevin Owens. And you heard the cry. That whole cry where
my former friend.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, here's Sammy backpedaling and tripping on his words faster than Dave LaGreca on one bad foot, and he realized, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. But it again, the beauty of it is it still has that seed of doubt.
Well, it's
now,
like Jay here a couple of weeks ago when he.
Yeah, but so when do they pull the trigger on Sammy? I'm not 100. I don't know yet because I would like to see A, where it goes. B, again, depending on Rock and Roman. I mean, you very well if for whatever reason, if Rock and Roman doesn't happen, you very easily. I mean, granted, it's not quite the same magnitude. But you could see a Sammy Roman main event at WrestleMania. They're already telling a fantastic story, so why not?
They are, but okay. Me personally, I'm a huge fan of The Rock, massive fan of The Rock. I don't think he needs to be anywhere near this storyline. Not because it wouldn't be fun, because I don't think that the story needs it. At least not from a title perspective. If you're going to tell me that they're going to be that, here's what I want to say. If you're telling me The Rock's going to be involved, it's non-title. It's for the head of the table. It's for the tribal chief. It's for the moniker of the family. And then separate from that, if you want to have two matches, I don't know why you'd have two matches with Roman, but if you had to have a title match with Roman, you have Cody versus Roman for the world title, not the universal title. Split the titles up because Roman does have both titles. He carries them both to the ring. It is not one title. They keep saying it's unified, but if it was unified, right?
Yeah,
They're still,
and even when they announce them, they still differ. They subtly differentiate between the two.
Right.
The undisputed heavyweight universal champion.
Right. So, okay, guys. There was so much more stuff to cover. I want to thank you guys for joining us this week. I want to thank everybody watching for joining us this week. Stay tuned for more exciting updates from people who are traveling all over the place. There'll be more events coming up. Like I said, we have Mission Pros Kickstart My Heart on February 11th, which should be a lot of fun. Did I say February? February 11th. Yep.
Yeah, February 11th, 2023. The first show, Mission Pro show of 2023. Yep.
And there'll be more news and exciting things coming from Mission Pro this year. They've got big plans over there, and it's going to be pretty fun. John, where can people find you on the Twitter?
Like the little banner below says, at Twisted Metal Fab on the Twitter and Instagram. And of course, as always, hashtag Nation's Corner on location, folks. If you're out and about, if you're at the shows, the meet and greets, the conventions, wherever, throw the hashtag on there, Nation's Corner on location. Take pictures, share them with us. Let us know what you're doing out there, who you're seeing, who you're liking. And I'm on the mend myself from a medical issue, so I'm not out and about as much as I will be, but guaranteed as soon as I am able to, I am back in the truck and back making the towns and seeing everything and everyone I can.
Nice. All right.
Dead Ahead Raw on Twitter, and Instagram, and TikTok. Post to the
You got the tick and the talk
group. pictures, yeah.
Mhm.
Posted a video of our group pictures from our Mission Pro trip if you want to check them out.
Nice. And I also so Mike, give us where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me anywhere under a bridge, at the soup kitchen.
He's even over there now.
Nah, all seriousness. Mongrovian Mike. You can find me everywhere. I'm even on TikTok too. You know, I don't post it's not all wrestling and bully brawler stuff. I post cute pet stuff on there. So we have fun.
and I
Find
want
me anywhere, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. I'm around.
I want to give a shout out to our good friend Guido, who was there with his family this weekend, and his daughter Ruthie, who go check them out on social media. It's Old Man Guido, GWEEDO, and they posted that they took some absolutely phenomenal pictures from the pay-per-view last weekend.
Awesome.
I think he posted a thread a couple days ago, and there's more coming. But they're super talented, and dad and daughter duo doing some really fun wrestling things. So go give them a follow and check out all their stuff. I am PW Front Row on all the social media. You can find us on.
That's the real boss, Tiffany Nieves.
You can find us on @Nations Corner on Twitter and @The Nations Corner across all the other socials. So next weekend's Christmas Eve. The weekend after is New Year's Eve. I don't know what we're going to be doing for shows yet. I got to get with the whole team and see if we're going to do something midweek. But those nights we will not be having shows, obviously, because of the holidays. So stay tuned to the socials. And if we're going to do something fun, we'll keep you all up to date.
My Christmas tree is topped with glowing eyes Kane mask.
That's on brand.
That's it.
All right, everybody, have a happy holidays. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah.
See ya.